Hey, what's going on, guys? So, if you click this video, I'm assuming you already kind of have a basic understanding of covered calls, cash secured puts, and how you can actually generate income from opening up and selling options with puts and selling calls, right? In this video, I want to show you guys kind of two other income streams that a lot of option sellers miss out on to increase even just a little bit more of that income that they could be making from their covered calls and their cash secured puts. And from when I launched this channel, you guys already know the strategy I call this is the quad option strategy. And the reason I call it that is because there's really four ways that you're kind of making money or collecting premium and income from your selling options trading strategy. And this is what works for me. So that's why I share this stuff. And I'm glad I have enough time now to really share this stuff. There's no paid courses, nothing like that on this channel. Everything's completely for free. Any questions? There's no gatekeeping, none of that. Just let me know. The only thing I ask for, if cost of entry, is hit like on the video, all right, and subscribe to the channel. New videos every single day. So again, we talked about cash secured puts and how we're generating premium there, as well as covered calls. If you don't know that already, like just go back and watch the previous videos. Maybe I think I'm going to create a playlist on here for like complete options selling for beginners on the channel, and all those will be in there. So I'm going to assume you kind of understand what cash secured puts are and covered calls are. And what we're talking about today is dividends and appreciation sale. Okay, and this is going to be important because this adds an extra layer of income for you in two additional ways. So let's go look at some examples. I'm going to give you guys kind of my three favorite stocks to run covered calls and cash secured puts on that hit basically on all of these points, and they're not just going to be like ridiculously overpriced stocks. So the first one I want to share with you guys is Pepsi. I personally am a huge believer in Pepsi. I think this company I talk a lot about it on X, and it's funny because, like, literally, I was talking about it down here, like in January, like when the New Year happened. I was like, "What is going on to Pepsi?" It's like it makes no sense. Pepsi, like the amount of brands they own, we're not going to go through them all, but like just go on their website. They own so many large brands, like this is like, in my opinion, a very stable company, like especially that I believe in. Again, nothing here is financial advice for entertainment purposes. I'm just some random guy on the internet sharing stuff that works for me. All right. So, but like I knew like we are not going to see like Pepsi at 140. Like, come on now. Like, we're not going to see these kind of levels. And I have no idea why there was such a dump in the new year. But again, and this is why I recommend go follow on X and stuff, because I these videos are usually one day delayed. So if you want to like see like up to date stuff that I'm sharing, go follow at Only Peter Prue on Instagram, as well as on X. That's where I'm a lot more talking about this stuff. So there was a big dump here, and the premiums, the cash you could put premiums were so nice. And again, it was great. It was a great start to the year for Pepsi for option sellers. So again, we're back at that 150 range, which isn't bad. Okay, like I don't want you guys to think this is bad, because if you guys already know our strategy here, we are we are looking for companies, like the best companies in my opinion for selling options on are companies that kind of trade sideways, like for the most part. Now if they have like a dip like Pepsi did, usually within a month they're kind of like right back where they're supposed to be. So for example, like it's January 28th today, and it was a massive dip in January 10th, right? And then we're back. Like, so why is this important? Well, the concept is important because, for example, let's say you did open up some cash secured puts when Pepsi was dropping down to 140. Maybe you open up some 135s, right? 135 cash secured puts. You collected a nice juicy premium. Well, guess what? Pepsi literally started having an amazing rally, like pretty much a couple days later. By this point, you can close out your cash secured put early, and then your collateral is freed up to do other trades on, right? And we'll get into all that stuff in future videos on like how to manage your cash secured puts and covered calls. But like that's how they think. Once I capture a good amount of that premium, like I'm closing out that trade, and then I'm freeing up my collateral, whether it's shares that I'm using as collateral for covered calls, or like money, like to actually to do more cash secured puts, right? So again, we're looking at Pepsi here, and we see that there's a nice little dividend here of 3.45%. You're like, Pete, that's like nothing. Look, I understand it is like negligible considering a lot of the strategies that you do with cash secured puts, covered calls. They can go from anywhere 1% a month to 3% a month, and if you're extremely risky and crazy, you could even get like 5 to 10% a month. I've seen premiums for doing that. But right, for stable companies, which I recommend you do option selling on, stable companies that for the most part are going to be around for many many years to come, a dividend like this is nice because, for example, let's say you did have a cash secured put open on Pepsi, right? And you ended up buying it around like 140. Like, and you're like, you know what? I kind of want to like hold Pepsi for long term. Like if my shares get called away at like a certain thing, like and they get sold, like, okay, like I'll be a little bit upset, but like I kind of like this stock. Well, that's why I like doing this on dividend stocks, because now as you're holding Pepsi, right? As you're holding Pepsi and opening up covered calls on your 100 shares that you got from your cash secured put, you are now collecting an additional dividend from that, right? Which is nice, right? That's an extra 3.45%. I know over the span of a year that's not like a ton of money, but when you compound that with your cash secured put premiums, you're getting in at good prices, your covered call premiums, right? And then your dividend, right? You're getting three income streams just from a trade. That's fantastic in my opinion, right? Now, the next one I want to talk to you guys about is the appreciation sale, right? And a lot of people forget about this because they fall in love with stocks. And I stress on this channel, not enough because we've only in a few videos, but one thing you're going to know about me is I don't like falling in love with stocks. I fell in love with stocks and like certain stocks, and I would be very upset if I sold them. Look, you don't run this quad option strategy if you love a stock. Like, just don't do it. If you got like your Apple shares at an insane price that we will never see again, and you'd be so sad if you sold them, do not sell them, right? Like, don't do this strategy on. The point of this strategy, guys, I can't stress this enough, is buying shares of companies you like with the covered calls, then eventually getting assigned and selling those shares, collecting dividends, and then that appreciation sale. And that appreciation sale comes from when your covered call gets assigned. So for example, let's say you did get Pepsi at like 142 here, and then you did a monthly out, right? Let's say for January 28th, let's just say for it is an example, you sold a covered call, you got in at Pepsi at 142, and then you said to yourself, you know what, if Pepsi hits 150 again in the next month, I'm totally willing to just part way with my shares, totally willing, like not a problem. Okay, so let's say the 28th comes around and that's when your expiration date was, right? You're going to be assigned because Pepsi's at 153. So you're going to sell your 100 shares now, right? Let's say you got in at 140 for simplicity's sake, right? You bought those for $14,000, right? You bought those for $14,000, those 100 shares of Pepsi, right? And now you're going to sell them at the end of the month for $15,000. We'll just say 150, right? Just for simple math and in my simple brain, right? You're selling them for $15,000. Like, can we all agree that's a win? Like, can we all agree that's when you just made $1,000? Not only did you make $1,000, right? Like, you bought them at 14,000, right? And now you sold them at 50,000. You made $1,000 on the appreciation sale, right? That's the appreciation sale. You made $1,000 there, but you made money two other ways as well, right? You made money when you said your cash secured put, right? You collected premium because you said you were going to buy. So let's say you collected, $200 in premium right there, right? Just as for example purposes, you collected $200 in premium because you got it at 140, and then when you said that you were going to open up a covered call, right? That you're going to open up a covered call and sell it at 150, right? You were probably paid another $200 in premium for that as well, right? So combine that. You got $1,000 in your appreciation sale, $200 for opening up a covered call premium, another $200 for your cash secured put premium, right? You made $1,400 like in just basically one single trade. Like this is why like selling options in my opinion is the best strategy for like 99% of people, because most of us, like again me, I'm not a day trader. I don't stare at charts all day and create abstract art and like all this crazy nonsense. I like investing in companies like that have solid fundamentals, and I like to get in on those companies at really good prices. And I like to get out of those companies at really good prices and collect premiums and dividends and appreciation money from it. Like, that's the strategy in a nutshell. Okay. So let's go into some other companies. I think most of you are following along with what I'm talking about, right? The cash secured puts, cover calls, dividends, appreciation sale, and how we're making money along the way. Now, one more thing I'll quickly hit on, right? Usually you don't see a bounce back that quick, right? We're living in a weird time in the market, right? We're living in some strange market times right now. These swings in this market are insane, but they're good, right? Because it creates a lot of volatility, which gets us insane premiums, right? It gets us insane premiums, right? And not only that, we're able to get in and out of trades a lot faster. Like for example, like 2 years ago, like the market was different, right? And when you would do like covered calls, like for example, like let's say you did get Pepsi at 140, like it might take like 3, 4, 6 months before Pepsi gets back to like a 154, 150 plus range. It could take a while, right? Before you see those levels. And that's okay because, right, as we're now holding Pepsi, we're collecting the dividend. Okay, I just wanted to clear that up because some of you might be thinking, well, how does the dividend fit into this? If I sold it in a month, well, in that case, if the ex dividend date wasn't there and you didn't buy it, the Pepsi in time to actually collect the dividends, which again, that's a whole nother strategy, being able to like poach shares by the ex dividend date. So then you could quickly collect the dividend and then quickly exit the company. Like that's a strategy a little bit more advanced for selling options and then like collecting a quick dividend on it. And you'll sometimes see some weird stuff happen with that and like people sniping your shares on your covered calls. Like you'll see some weird stuff like that happen where if you're okay, just like a quick little word of recommendation, try not to set your expiration date around the ex dividend date, like a week, like a week from it, because you'll see sometimes people will like, let's say like they believe that it's really going to get there, and it like gets you had like a 150 and it's like trading at like 149 or something. Like somebody might just exercise that option and take your 100 shares just because they want to capture the dividend, and then they also believe like they might do that, right? Like it hasn't happened to me, but I've heard it happens a lot, right? So a little sip of coffee, So, just I recommend go look at your company's ex dividend date, and then like try to avoid doing your expiration date for your covered calls with that, unless you just don't care and you just want to collect your premium and you're moving on, right? So let's go into two other stocks that I really enjoy doing this whole entire strategy on. Next one, it's already, come on, like Pepsi. Next one's Coke. All right, like come on now. And the reason I like Coke is because it's a little bit more. It's cheaper. Like let me just like can I just speak truthfully? It's cheaper. Normal people are a lot more like normal people because I'm not normal, right? So but like average people are able to do this strategy on, like, look, I get it. Like Pepsi, to open up an option on at Pepsi, you need at least 15K. All right. Like you might not have 15K. Now, I should have said this at the start of this channel. Like to do selling options, like this is why I say this channel is dedicated for those of you who are busy professionals. You're busy people. When I say you're a busy professional, I'm not saying your day's filled with like doing weird stuff that's like keeping you busy. I'm talking you have a job, you have a career, you run a business, you're successful, right? You have kids, you're a family man like me. You want to play golf like me, right? You want to do other stuff, but you don't want to. You still love trading the markets. I have such a passion for like trading the markets, but I also, at the same time, I have no desire to sit in front of my screen for 8 hours a day, like creating abstract art on a graph. And like at the end of the day, no one knows. It's all a fugazi. Everybody that tells you if a market's going to go up or down is a liar. Nobody can predict it. No one, not a single human being knows if the market's going to go up or down. But there's one thing I do know after trying all the strategies under the sun with options. I love the idea of being able to choose when I buy a stock, when I get to exit a stock, and then get paid some premiums along the way through it. To me, that's a win-win. Okay, so but you do need some budget here, right? You do need some money, all right, to actually make this strategy work. That's your money, that's your thing. This is not financial advice, but the more money you have that you do selling options, like let's just cut through the crap. Like the more money you have to sell options, the more premiums you're going to collect. Like it's just like it's not a difficult concept to grasp, okay? Right? So like for example, like if we look at, Coca-Cola, if you wanted to sell, let's say, a cash secured put on Coca-Cola right now, depending on what strike price you choose, you would need at least $6,000 in you would need at least $6,000, right? So like if we just go to like trade Coke options, so let's again, I'm not gonna like go into technical analysis now. It's so see like this would be so this is a perfect, actually good example. This is a good example for you, right? Because this is, I don't even need to go and like look at a chart right now. I already know these cash secured puts on this, the premiums are going to be ass. Why are they going to be ass? I think we can all know because the stock is blowing up. If the stock is going up, remember basic stuff, guys. If the stock is going up, what does that mean? A lot of people are buying it. So what does that mean? Covered call time, covered calls. When a lot of people are buying it, give them that, unload it on them, right? Start selling your covered calls, your 100 shares as collateral. Now, if everyone's dumping the stock, that's when you want to do your cash secured puts, right? Because then that they're all selling it. They're all scared. They're all scared. World's coming to an end, right? Like that's when we can then get in on companies at a really good price. So like when I show you this right now, the premiums are not going to be impressive. They're going to be terrible. But again, I just want to go onto the chain real quick, right? So let's just go to trade Coke options. Remember, we are not buyers, we are sellers. I will do future videos on buying options, but for the most part, I highly recommend do stay the hell away from buying options. It is scary, it is risky. You can this is when you see people buying options and you go on like Reddit and X and people losing hundreds of thousands of dollars, it is because they are buying options for the most of the time, right? Do not do it. We are option sellers here on this channel. It is the better way to do it in my opinion, okay? So if you want to sell covered calls, use stick calls. If you want to sell puts, that's called a cash secured put. I know you'll get a hang of the lingo, guys. If you're watching this, you're like, what is like, oh, this is lingo. You'll get it. Just watch the channel. I try to dumb this stuff down because again, I'm not like the smartest person by any stretch of the imaginations. Imagine it. See, I just proved my point, right? So like, but like you'll get it. You'll get the stuff. You just do it a few times. It's nerve wracking. It's scary. But my goal with this channel, guys, is when you watch this stuff, I'm hoping that you execute it and collect your first premiums. Like that would make my world. And please let me know somewhere on X, on Instagram, or on the comments here, like whatever you got to hit me up. Like let me know you collected some premium because the first time you collect premium, you're like, holy shit. Like I just got paid to say I was going to buy a company at like an insane price that I would love to own it for. Hell yeah. Right. So here's our expiration date right here. I like to, for the most part, blue chip stocks like this, like Coca-Cola, Pepsi. I'm usually doing 30 to 45 days out because the premiums are better, right? So let's just do like a 38 day right now. That's March 7th. And again, these premiums aren't going to be good because the stock is going up, right? Like it's $78 for on six. That's actually not terrible, but like it's like, look, no one, it's just not, they're not good, right? But then when you look at like the covered calls, like they're nice. So let's again, this is where you got to have a good setup, right? You got to have a good setup, right? Like it's so key. So if we look at like more of like a riskier company, another. So I have two. I don't want to like look. I don't want to get sidetracked because today's video, we're talking primarily about appreciation style dividends. I don't want to start talking about like two other companies I love, which is NVIDIA and AMD, to run this strategy on. Those are more of high volatile companies, which have insane premiums. But let's go into the last company that I want to share today. And then like for tomorrow's video, I'll talk about more like growth stocks that we can do. Okay, my last one is T Rowe. I love this company. Oh, this might be a good one actually. It's let's see. Oh, perfect. We might get some good cash secured puts premiums on this. Maybe. Damn it. It's still trading side, which is okay. It's okay, but this would have been like the ideal spot to do it. Again, when it's going down, we want to do cash secured premiums. As the stock's going up, we want to do covered calls. I'm going to keep repeating that. I hope that's okay because I want that really to sink in because to me when I was learning this stuff the hard way, like I would be like open up cash secure covered calls when the stock's going down because I was like, oh, premium, cool. Like no, that's not a good idea, right? So I like this higher dividend yield, much higher, 4.36%. That's a whole percent higher than Pepsi and Coke, right? A little bit more, and that's a lot. That adds up. If you do this over years and years and years, that adds up tremendously. Okay, so let's take a look at the T Rowe options. We'll go to the sells. We'll go to the puts. The one downside to T Rowe and a lot of these some of these dividend paying companies is the expiration. There's not as much activity, so the expirations aren't as crazy. But that's fine, right? That's totally fine because again, my play with a T row is to own T row and then sell covered calls. I like this is a company that I don't mind holding the bag and then I'm just selling covered calls on it and collecting dividend and I'm collecting covered call premium, right? So with a company like T Rowe, and this is not to throw a wrench in your whole thing, I sometimes might go 52 days out. Like I might go further out because I want to hit that dividend date and make money. You know what I'm saying? So like for example, like let's say you have 100 shares of T Rowe. This is where it gets fun. Okay. So let's go sell call, right? Because we want to sell covered calls, right? And let's say you did get it at like 110 or something like that, right? You can come onto the options chain and now we can start. I do recommend, I will show you the video on more like technical analysis. I'm just giving you guys like quick, dirty, basic Greek deciding on what to get in. Okay. But we're not going to go in and like do like Bollinger Bands and RSI right now. All right. And usually on, again, on T row, like and stuff like that, like I don't even need to, because once once you pick your like 5 to 15 stocks, like you just kind of know, like, like you've done it so many times where it's just like, what's going on. Like I don't even need to know what the chart looks like on this, because I already know when it's at this price, like what the market's doing, because it's been like 7 years I've been trading this company. Okay. So 120, let's say I did get it, I got assigned and I own 100 shares of it. And I want to find an expiration date that's a bit further out. So I capture that dividend. And I'm looking at the 120. All right. So let's see 120. And then I'm looking at my delta. So that's a 0.31 delta. That basically means there's a 31% chance that this is going to happen. There's a 31% chance that T-Row will hit 120. That's a sweet spot for me. I'm usually looking, 20 to 30. But I also want to see this point. This is a 16 delta. So that's only a 60% chance of it happening. So you're only going to collect $70. If you're wondering why it says 0.70, it's to confuse us. I swear it is. It's 0.70 times 100. So you only collect 100 or $70 here, as opposed to here, you're going to collect $175. So let's take a look at this one. It's a 0.31 delta, and then we can click that little plus sign right here, and then we could see that we would collect $175 in premium. We would get $175 directly deposited into our Robinhood account, right? And this is called a covered call. So your 100 shares of T Row are now being used as collateral, meaning that when this date rolls around, March 22nd, 21st, and T Row does hit 120, you will have your shares sold for you. But that's okay, right? Because like at the same time, you might have missed it. But guess what? You captured dividend, right? And you're capturing appreciation sale. And you also made cover call premium of $175. So it's a win-win. My recommendation is, again, don't sell companies, right? Don't sell options on companies or cover calls, cash puts on ones you absolutely love. Have a portfolio that's like 70% of it you never touch, where it's like your major VU and VIG, VTI, like all these Vanguard funds. Like have that set aside for yourself, and that's the stuff that you never touch, right? It's that monthly buys, the reoccurring buys, and you don't touch that. It just grows. That's your retirement, that's your life savings, whatever it is for you. And then have a portfolio, depending on your risk tolerance, 10%, 15%, 20%, whatever it is for you, that you can do stuff like this that's generating income from your trades and allows you to be a little bit more of an active investor. But you could see just in this one trade, like we're making $175 just in premium, right? Then we're going to collect the dividend. And then if we do end up selling the shares, we're going to capture the appreciation sale. But guess what? Let's say T Row tanks. We can close this out early, and we can do something where we call buying our or closing out our cash secured put. And what that means is we could say, hey, you know what? We no longer, we basically, in the nutshell, it's saying, hey, you know what? On the other hand, you know what? I don't want to sell my shares for 120. So what we can actually do is we could say, hey, you know what? We'll close out our position here, but we'll have to give back some of that premium. So we might have to give back, $20, $30 of that premium. But guess what? That's a good thing, because now that frees up our collateral, 100 shares, to then do another covered call on. My rule of thumb is I like to collect, as if I capture 70 to 80% of this $175, I'm fine giving that 10, 20% back to close it out to free up my collateral. I hope that makes sense. And the reason for that is because my goal is to try to beat, I need to beat the market, right? Like my goal is to, otherwise it's pointless to be doing this strategy. So you don't want to be sitting around on, if you're collected already 80%, 90%, I see people sitting on 90%, like, and there's still 3 weeks till expiration. You already collected 90% of the premium. Close that thing out, free up your capital or your shares to then just run the strategy again, right? Like that's the thing. Like just close it out and then run it again. It's not that difficult, guys. I hope you enjoyed this one. Okay, so just to quickly recap: cash secure puts, covered call premiums, dividend income, appreciation sale income. That's our quad option strategy. I release new videos here every single day. Make sure to go follow on X. That's where more of the like live stuff is happening. Different strategies that I'm companies I'm looking at, the strategies that I'm looking at. So make sure you go follow me on X and Instagram at only Peter Prue. You can find me there. And any questions at all, again, there's no gatekeeping here. I'm here to help you guys out with this strategy. So drop questions, comments, tag me on X. If you get some premiums, let me know. I want to hear you guys that are actually putting this stuff to use and actually collecting some premium. I would love to hear your successes with it. But guys, that is it for today's video. I will see you guys tomorrow.